This is Zachary Horn with Clean Code Studio, Clean Code, Clean Life. Today, let's learn some Vue. Alright guys, so today we are going to begin the implementation, the applicable part of this Vue tutorial. So to get started, I opened up the Vue API docs. Now that's set up at vuejs.org/v2/API. If you go through the Vue API docs, you can see there's global config, there's the global API, there's the options data, and so on. Now we're going to ignore the global config and we're going to ignore the global API for now. We will come back to the global API once we understand the Vue instance a little bit better. So, to start off with the Vue instance, we're going to break it down by going over the options data, the Vue instance options for data. And we're going to start off with something really simple, the data. Now, as we talked about in earlier videos, the data is the source of truth. Specifically, if we go up here, everything over here, this is our Vue instance. Our Vue instance has data, which is actually technically a data option, but I put it over here because it's so important. The data of a Vue instance is the source of truth in Vue. Everything else will react on Vue's data, on Vue's source of truth. So what I have over here is I have opened this repository, github.com/zhorn34/vueapi tutorial. So if we just go right here and we just do command copy, so that's just clone, command copy, just like you do any Git repository. And we're going to go to our command line, we're going to do git clone, and we're going to clone that in. So while that clones in, which is going to be really fast, we're going to just ls, confirm was cloned in, we're going to do zd Vue API tutorial. Now that we're in here, we're going to do git branch A. This is going to show us all of our branches. And we're actually wanting to go to tutorial starting point. So let's do git checkout tutorial/starting point. Just like that. Now that we're here, we have our repository cloned and we've checked out the tutorial starting point branch. We're going to do an npm install. We're going to wait for that to install, and then once that installs, we're going to boot up our node server and then do an npm run serve. Okay, so it looks like our npm install ran successfully. So now we're going to run npm run serve. And all this is going to do, this is going to boot up a local node server. This local node server, it already has a project that I've scaffolded out. Okay, so now that is booted up, we can go to this URL. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my terminal, open up a new tab, and I'm going to ls to see everything. I'm going to cd into that Vue API tutorial project, and using Sublime, I'm going to open the entire directory. Now, if you see, the entire directory is now open, and I have this browser, which is our localhost 8080, already opened in Chrome. So now I'm just going to open up this console, just like this. And now if we go to main.js, you can see that we have a project created, and I actually used a render function here. And we rendered the created project based on the dashboard Vue component. Now we created our new Vue project, our new Vue instance with our project settings, and we mounted it to the element with an ID of app. Now we can prove this by doing let element equal document.query selector. We're going to do app, just like that. If we do app Vue, we should get this Vue instance, and we do. So if we scroll down, we can see this Vue instance. It's right there. There's the element. It has children, and the children has a form element, etc., etc. So what we want to do is we want to actually go to this form element, and we want to two-way bind this form input with our instance data. That is the goal of today's presentation. So if we go to forms, we go to base form. Here we go. So we have a randomly scaffolded out form, and it's going to be just form base class with input fields, right? And it has a name. So how do we register data? How do we register the source of truth in a Vue instance? And by the way, this Vue instance right here, because we're in a .vue file, it does this for us automatically. But what it's really doing here behind the scenes is doing vue.extend, or it's doing extends Vue. So it's automatically extending the Vue instance for us, so we don't have to. That's what the Vue compiler and the .vue extension on the file does for us. So now if we do, how do we register data? So we do data equals this, and then let's just make a data property for each of our input fields. So let's do return, we're going to do name equals null, we're going to do email equals null, we're going to do city equals null. We're just going to save that real quick. I should probably push that, but whatevs. Okay, so now that that's saved, we can prove, using our Vue dev tools, that our instance does indeed have data on it. It has data. We can also prove that through our terminal by doing document.query selector and then .form. Whoop, need an equal sign there. Equals that. And then we can do base form.vue just like that. And we're going to do .name. .name is null. Okay. So now, what if we fill out our form? What happens? Well, if we fill out our form and we go back to our Vue dev tools, we have not two-way binded that data yet. And all two-way binded data means is if we update our input field, it should update our instance data. If we update our instance data, it should update our input fields. So Vue makes this really easy. They add this custom vmodel directive. And all the vmodel directive does is it says, hey, I want to two-way bind my data instance with this input field's value. And so if we add that in, and we just do name and email, just like that, there we go. Now, if we go back to our Vue dev tools over here, and we go to base form, okay, they are null. So let's do this. Let's reload our page real quick. Let's do base form equals document.query selector .form. And if you're wondering where I'm getting that .form, it's right up here. So yeah, that's where we're getting that. And I'm actually going to set base form to the Vue instance itself this time. So let's do base form.name equals hello world. And because it's two-way binded, it properly updates hello world. Now we proved that the input field is binded to our data. But how do we prove that our actual input field also updates our data? So when we change our data, our input field is updated. To make it two-way binded, when we update our input field, then our data should also change. How can we prove that? Well, let's just do input field updated. All right. And so now if we do base form and we have properly two-way binded our data, then we should be able to say base form.name and it should be input field updated data. And it is. So guys, that is setting up your initial source of truth, your data and your Vue instance, and two-way binding it to a form's input fields. Yeah, so in the next lesson we will start going over through a few more things about data options, and then we'll go from there. Thanks again for tuning in. If this was helpful, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.